Back when I was in high school, I was on the track team for my freshman and sophomore years as a distance runner. I would have done it all 4 years, but I severely hyperextended my knee, which sidelined me. I'll give you a general layout of the high school building. When you first walked into the building, there was a large mural on the wall. There were 2 doors on either side that led to the auditorium. Further along to either side were stairs going up to the top 2 floors. Farthest to the left was a short hallway and then the cafeteria. To the right, there was a really long hallway that went down the entire length of the building. It went past the teacher's lounge, auditorium, old boys' locker room, which was used by the theater as a green room now, the coach's office, through the new gymnasium, and past the hallway leading to the boys' locker room. Just as you went past the third entrance to the auditorium and the pop machines, there was a slight bend in the hallway where it went from carpet to concrete. If you stood near the distance learning room, you couldn't see the gym. If you stood by the gym and coach's office, you couldn't see the door to the distance learning room. My sophomore year, in the early months of 2005, we were getting home fairly late from a track meet. We got back home to the high school at about 12:30 a.m. I realized that there was a major English project due the next morning, and English was my first period of the day. I asked one of the coaches to accompany me into the building and to the second floor to get my book. He said he would unlock the door and wait for me outside to lock it behind me. I didn't want to turn any of the lights on in the building because it was really early in the morning and the cops were patrolling for any suspicious activity. In hindsight, I could have turned the lights on. So what if it attracted a cop? I was getting a book from my locker. I'm sure he would have let me off scot-free. But I was young and stupid, I guess. The school itself was built in the 20s. It was a 3-story building in the heart of town. Now on to my story. I managed to make it to the 2nd story and was walking to my locker. The only light in the place was the light from the landing between the 1st and 2nd floors. These were kept on all the time. I avoided looking at the huge mirror down by the science room because I had a strange feeling, and I have no idea why they decided to put a mirror down there in the first place. It was there when my father went to school too. I got to my locker, grabbed the book, and had just started to walk back towards the stairs when I heard someone walking up the stairs on the 3rd floor where the freshman lockers were. I just put it out of my mind because I thought, it's an old building. It's bound to have creaks and stuff, right? Wrong. To make sure I wasn't hearing things, I paused again on the 1st and 2nd floor landing. The footsteps were now coming down from the 3rd floor to 2nd. I jumped nearly the entire last half of the stairs and ran and hid between trophy cases to listen again, holding my breath. The footsteps were on the 2nd floor and sounded like they were coming down the stairs. I bolted down the hallway, stopping only when I got to the entrance to the new gym. The footsteps were now running, and I heard tennis shoes go from carpet to concrete, but I didn't see anyone or anything down by the pop machines. I freaked out and ran full speed out to my car. Then it hit me. I might have not been the only person in the building. I looked around the parking lot. My car was the only one there. My hands were shaking so much that I threw the book down on the passenger seat and gripped the steering wheel. My eyes focused on the door to the gym, seeing if a student within walking distance was going to come out. It took me a good 5 to 10 minutes to calm down, and in that time frame, my eyes never left the stupid door. Then I drove home. I asked my dad what it could have been. When I told him I went in there alone at 12:30 at night in the morning, in almost pitch darkness, he said, "Holy shit, I wouldn't even have done that if I was your age. That place freaked me out at night." Thanks, Dad. The old high school building has been abandoned since 2008 because we built a brand new high school in between the 2 merged towns that the schools consisted of. It still gives me the creeps to drive past it. Thanks for reading. My friend Anna and I were at school one night. I only live around the corner, and Mom had to finish cleaning the hall because we had just had a school fundraiser that went till really late. So being the bored and curious little 13-year-olds that we are, decided to see what the main school building looked like at night. We walked in and went up the stairs to look out over the school. Anna kept watching out the window, and I went back out into the corridor. I looked up the corridor, then down it. I looked back up and down again. But the second time I looked down, I saw what looked like kind of like a person, but it was dark and rounded around the edges, and it was a little transparent because I could see the light from around the corner through it, but it just seemed to hover around the door outside a classroom. I told Anna that we had to get the hell out of there. She kept asking me why I was so pale and quiet, and why I was walking so fast. I explained to her that I had a really bad feeling, and that I had seen something really weird upstairs. She believed me after she made me swear I wasn't telling her a load of BS. About 3 days later, we were sitting in geography, just doing what we always do in geography. Run amok and rearrange the classroom furniture in order to talk to as many people as possible. But we just happened to be in the same classroom that the thing I had seen was hanging outside of. I hadn't told anyone about what I had seen, and I knew that Anna hadn't because we are in constant contact, and she still wasn't 100% sure I was telling her the truth. All of a sudden, our friend Cassidy stopped talking and went really pale. We asked him if he was alright, and he just shook his head. We were a bit confused, but just kept talking anyway. After class, I asked him what was up with him in geography, and he just told me that I would think he was crazy, but that he thought he had seen a ghost in the classroom. Now, Cass isn't the kind of person that will make something up like that. He is always happy and joking around, but he would never lie about something like this. If he was, then he would have said something in geography about it. He described what he saw, and it was exactly the same thing that I'd seen a few nights earlier. That's my story. Sorry if it wasn't very interesting or scary, but I can assure you, every word of it is true. Thanks for reading. I live in a building that was originally a school for the territory and was shut down in 1978. It was renovated and reopened and became an office building. I live in the caretaker's residence next to one of the gyms. I unlock and lock up and clean some offices for free rent. I have lived here for 8 years now and have too many experiences to tell them all. Shortly after I moved in, someone or something began sitting on and sometimes bumping into my bed. I really tried to figure out what was going on through rational thinking. What could do that? One night, I felt something sit down again, and I bolted up in my bed and looked where I felt the impression. I couldn't see anyone, but could plainly see an impression in my bed. I could see as I had a little light at that time. I told whatever to please stop sitting on my bed, and the dent in my bed would go away, but would return another evening. I wasn't asleep and having a dream, as I had just gone to bed, and it takes me an hour or two to get to sleep. I never felt threatened or that the person was menacing. I would also get someone or something bumping my bed. It was enough to cause the bed to move. I finally moved the bed across the room and the bumping stopped. The bed sitting has not stopped, but only happens occasionally now, like once or twice a week. I think one of the most scary things to happen was a few years ago, one summer night. I was in my bed, trying to get sleep, and I looked over and there was a blonde-haired teenage boy leaning over my bed with one hand extended as if he was going to touch me. I screamed and took my pillow and swatted at him with it. The apparition was no longer there. I don't know if it dissipated or what, and I instead hit my standing fan that was next to my bed. Pieces of the fan went flying, and I was already out of my bed running for the overhead light to turn on. I flipped it on, and I couldn't see anyone or anything except my fan. I could do a police sketch to this day. He was so vivid in detail. He had a 70s style hairdo, longer in the back with featured bangs, and a part down the middle. He was very pale skinned and looked maybe 15 to 16 years old. He was wearing a silk type shirt with long button down sleeves that was orange and yellow, and maybe peach colors in a design that also reminded me of the 70s. It had the flared collar and was open chested. I don't know what he looked like from the waist down. This building was originally a school for all the children in the area, then converted into the high school, and then became the junior high until 1978. I don't know when the switches occurred. I also don't know of anyone dying in the building. The only person I can confirm that died in the apartment was an elderly lady who lived there with her husband. She died in one of the bedrooms of cancer. I know the granddaughter of the woman who died here, and she told me this. Thanks for reading. My stories all take place in Savannah, Georgia, in 1994 to 1995, while I was in art school. In my basement apartment outside of Troop Square, We had a ghost who usually dictated what he could and could not watch on TV at any given time. If I was watching the news, the TV would automatically change to another channel. This was an old TV where you had to turn the dial to change the channel. Weirdly enough, it really did not like talk shows. Also in the same apartment. One night, a friend and I were in the front room, and we had just finished watching a movie when we heard the back door open and slam shut, followed by loud footsteps that ran past the door of the front room and out towards the front door. The really weird part is this. The back door was always locked, and we had our kitchen table in front of it, so no one could have opened the door without first moving the table. The other instances took place at the apartment of a friend who lived 2 blocks away from me. I'd promised to meet my friend Mark at his place, so we could walk over to a club meeting together. I got there to see that the outside light was on, and it sounded like there were several people inside laughing and having a great time. I rang the doorbell. The laughter and chatter stopped, and the outside light went out. I left angry because I thought Mark was ignoring me. When I saw him at the meeting, I confronted him, and he was shocked. He then told me and later proved it to me by showing me that the outside light had no power and no bulb, and that he had been delayed after class due to an issue he had to discuss with his professor. Another time, Mark had asked me to help him clean his apartment by assisting in the removal and carrying of the double doors from his closet. He had a washer and dryer combo in that closet. We placed the folded double doors behind his main door that led out to the courtyard and left to go have dinner. When we came back, the closet doors were no longer behind the front door, but had been relocated to the opposite side of the room and were leaning against the closet doors. I should note that Mark lived alone and no one else had a key to his place. In Mark's apartment building, an old house that had been converted into apartments, there is one room that never has a temperature fluctuation. It can be the middle of the summer and 100 degrees outside, but it is always 55 to 60 degrees in that one room. There's no AC. The legend is that a young girl had been tied to a chair as punishment for misbehaving and had been left there by the servant, apparently the parents were away, for a few days, and that she was later found dead due to dehydration. I did not experience this firsthand, but this was told to me not only by Mark, but also by Lori, who had actually lived in the room and said that she never had to run the AC in the summer and that running the heat in the winter was futile because it never warmed her bedroom, just the rest of her apartment. These stories are absolutely true, and I thank God for not letting me experience these encounters that would have or would spell the end for me. I attend a Catholic school in the Philippines, which makes me Asian. I'm a senior, and since I was a freshman, I've not experienced any strange paranormal activity around the school. But when I heard rumors of ghostly apparitions in Chevalier's building, St. Mary's Hall, and piercing and violent screams in the girls' comfort room, I was shocked with awe and tried to think that it was impossible. The following encounters are not mine. They are of people who attend the school who have told me, or others told me, what happened. Chevalier's building. This happened to my friend who was a sophomore. I will call her Kenny. Kenny was asked by her advisor to stay late in the afternoon so she could help with the arranging of the scattered books in their mini library. Kenny couldn't refuse, so she stayed. Her classroom was located at the first floor of Chevalier's building. It was getting dark, and Kenny was busy arranging the books that had been scattered everywhere. Kenny's advisor then told her that she was going to get some snacks for herself and Kenny. She went out and Kenny was left alone. While arranging an assortment of children's stories, Kenny felt an eerie presence in the classroom. She was not alone, that she was being watched. That was the feeling she was getting. She didn't mind it and continued rearranging the books. After a while, she was done, but when she stood up, what greeted her was sheer terror. A young boy, about the age of 12, was standing in the corner of the room with bloodstains on his slightly transparent white shirt. His face was sad. Kenny completely lost it and ran out of the room screaming. She found her advisor, who was at the canteen, who chatted a bit with the canteen lady. Kenny told her about what she had just seen, and her advisor's eyes widened in fright. Unfortunately, when Kenny and her advisor told the prefect, who was one of the heads in the school, she wouldn't believe them. Today, that classroom is still being used, and many students believe that a young spirit still lurks around the classroom seeking for help. In St. Mary's Hall, it's one of the oldest buildings in the school. It was built in 1916, and many have said that a spirit of a girl drenched in blood walks right through the walls of the chemistry laboratories and the computer rooms. This happened to a chemistry teacher who I'll call Miss S. Mrs. S's office is located beside the chemistry lab, which is located in the 3rd floor. Almost everything in the chemistry lab is a century old, from glassware to iron apparatuses, from the hourglass to the Bunsen burners, almost everything. One early morning, Miss S entered her office. It was about 6 a.m., and not even one student or being was present. The other teachers were in the faculty room preparing for the day. Miss S turned on her radio and listened to some music while she wrote in her lesson plan. All of a sudden, the radio was turned off. This startled Miss S. She decided to get up and turn it back on. Like nothing strange had happened, Miss S continued on with her work, and after a few minutes, the radio was turned off again. This started to really frighten Miss S, so she decided to just leave her office and do her work in the chemistry lab where there were no things that could be turned on or off. It was peaceful, and Miss S went on with her work. After about 20 minutes, she heard someone or something play with the lab apparatus, like the tripods were being tapped with an iron clamp or the iron stand was being hit with a wire gauze. She got up to see what the fuss was about. When she looked at the apparatus room to see what or who was there making a racket, she saw a girl in her school uniform with her hair covering her face and with blood all over her. Miss S didn't think twice and rushed out of the chemistry lab, bringing along her lesson plan and her pens. She ran at top speed to get the faculty room where the other mentors were. She told them what she saw. They believed her, and along with 3 other teachers, they headed to the prefect's office and told her what Miss S had just seen. The prefect, being a skeptical woman, told Miss S that maybe she was just imagining things, but Miss S didn't witness no imagination, for she saw a girl who seemed to be about 15 years old, drenched in blood, with her jet black hair covering her face. Like what happened in the Chevaliers building, the prefect just deemed it as made up, or Miss S and Kenny had just imagined it all, and today, the chemistry lab is still being used. This last story happened to my schoolmate, who I'll call Beth, and it was in the comfort room. It was lunch, and Beth had to go to the toilet. She rushed into the girls' comfort room, which was located by St. Benedict's Hall. Like all of us would do, she entered a cubicle and did her business. While she was doing what nature asked, she heard a scream, particularly of a girl's. She just thought that it was probably some girl who was having a really jolly time with her friends outside, but the scream continued, and it got closer and louder. Beth was getting frightened, so she hurried, and in a jiffy, she was done. But when she stood up, a loud, violent, and ear-busting scream occupied the girl's comfort room. It was like someone had been harmed brutally in the girl's comfort room while Beth was there for the scream, and it was piercing and terrifying. Beth couldn't take it anymore and dashed out of the comfort room. She told her friends what she had heard, but they didn't believe her. For Beth proved it to her friends. She went back to the comfort room along with 3 other friends, but just as they were about to enter, a scream that was painful to the ears greeted them. The 4 of them ran off in fright. They told the teachers about it, but no teacher believed them. They had no plans on telling the prefect, as they were aware that they would just be wasting their time. To this day, none of these encounters are true to the prefect. She disregards them and considers them untrue. But one of the teachers investigated the history of the school and who are the spirits that loom around the school. He found out that in late 1930s, the school was invaded by merciless Japanese soldiers who harmed the students and the faculty. One student, whose first name was Madeline, was brutally killed in a classroom. But when the classroom was renovated, it became the girls' comfort room near the St. Benedict's Hall. Thank you so much for reading. I know this is a lot to handle. It's a difficult story to take in and digest, but I thank you for your time, and please apologize for my English. This story did not happen to me, but to my dad. Well, when my dad was little, he went to a boarding school which was quite an old building. Anyway, one day, he had to go to his dorm to get something, and next to his dorm was a bathroom and the door was open. As he walked past the bathroom, he saw in the window out of the corner of his eye the face of a boy. My dad didn't think too much of it, but a few months later, he found out that a boy that had gone to that school had fallen or jumped out of that window and died. This is not the only spooky thing that has happened at that school either, and I'm sorry that this is such a short read, but I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for reading. P.S. I would never look out a window again if I were you and you're reading this story. Just for the safety of this, thank you again. Hey, it's FanFan here, affectionately known as FanFan. I already said FanFan twice, so I don't know why I repeated myself. But anyway, that's not the point. We got the feline of darkness here, my pretty little cat, a feline man. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for taking this opportunity to listen to these ghost stories of schools and other related things. So thank you so much, guys. Would love if you shared, liked, subscribed, commented, and did all the fancy stuff that you do on YouTube to make channels go boom, 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 boom. So if you want my channel to go boom, 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 then go ahead. It's the post-Halloween surprise. Yeah, man, I still miss Halloween. I know it was only a couple days ago and people will be like, Phantom, what the hell? We just celebrated Halloween. But you know what? Nothing is cooler than Halloween except maybe Christmas and all the other holidays. But still, I'm just kidding. No, I love Halloween. Halloween's my favorite Halloween out of all the holidays. No, don't take that seriously. And yes, I just realized I said Halloween is my favorite Halloween. I meant to say holiday. But whatever. Who is perfect these days? Probably nobody. But maybe, I don't know, Arnold Schwarzenegger? I don't know, he's pretty cool. He has biceps and shit. Anyway, guys, demonetization just occurred, so I'm going to say good night, good morning. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.